Hello and welcome back to the Sleepless Podcast, where I interview people that are much more qualified than me in just about every area. And another massive guest today. Me being a Saints fan, this is just huge for me once again. Pick 9 in the 2006 draft, 169 games, 98 goals from the midfield. From Mackay, Queensland, former number 20 from the Saints, David Armitage. How are you, mate?
Good, buddy. Thanks for having me.
That's all right, mate. This is very, very exciting. I've got two former Saints players in a row now for me. This is pretty huge.
It's good, mate. I saw that you had Rob on your last show, which is awesome. Exciting for me too, because he was a childhood star, and I was lucky enough to play with him for a couple of years. But Rob's a super bloke and very, very humble sort of guy. But yeah, is a true Saints man.
Yeah, that was what I noticed when I interviewed him. He's so humble. Every time I tried to hype him up, he almost cut me down. He was like, nah, it's all these other blokes.
Yeah, that's right. He doesn't have any of it. He always left the limelight to the other blokes in the team, and just did his business. He just played to win and just did it quietly. That was Rob's halves in a nutshell.
I feel like that's you as well, though. You were in a team where we weren't doing so well or whatever, you were just dominating consistently, and when you came through, you had such a good story where you kept fighting and then you burst through sort of to...
Yeah, I had to bide my time a little bit. Obviously, the stats that you said before, 2006 got drafted. We had a new coach in Ross Lyon come over from Grant Thomas, and then our team was star-studded, and especially in the midfield coming through, I sort of had to bide my time a little bit. Probably took 3 or 4 years, and Ross Lyon used to say that the young guys had to do an apprenticeship before they got to crack into the team, and that was definitely the case. So basically bide my time, and once a few of those guys like halves and that moved on, I was able to get a bit more game time and end up sort of flourishing, learning off all these quality guys.
Yeah. I was going to say, you sort of when you started and then you had a few games here and there, and then it was once sort of you really came through and then you played just consistent footy for quite a few years when I was at least sort of in my peak, coming through childhood. So you're one of those players like you, Jack Stephen, all those blokes that I sort of grew up with that are always in my mind as my Saints idol sort of thing, which was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And even Jaron Geary, the skip now,
yep.
He was in the same boat at the time, where we sort of came through together, and Jackie Boy as well. So yeah, we were all in the same boat, where we had to bide our time, and then in the long run, it sort of keeps you, it holds you in better stead, I think, learning off those guys and earning your stripes, rather than some guys coming in nowadays expecting to play straight away, and if they don't, then they start looking for other clubs and that kind of thing. So it certainly taught us three in particular resilience and not always getting what you want straight away, but working for it, and in the long run it probably paid off with the three of us.
I was going to say that you all sort of became really, really good players for the club as other players like Sean Dempster, all those blokes that came through sort of thing that really worked hard to get to where they were, and then became really good players in the league like yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a lot of sort of players and that's what we went after, was hard-working, good guys that played team footy, and that's Ross Lyon's philosophy, was team footy and play your role within the team, and if you didn't, you found yourself out of the team pretty quickly, and he always kept you grounded, even if you had a 10-goal win and you were a little bit ahead of yourself, he would put the brakes on you pretty quick. So
that's all right. We're going to go to your early life sort of thing. So you were born in Queensland, up in Mackay. So how did you sort of fall into footy? Because that's such obviously rugby territory. How did you manage to make your way into sort of a football program? Yeah,
good question. My dad was from Tasmania, born and bred, and moved up when I was born actually, to Mackay with mum, chasing the warmer weather. And yeah, the comp when I was younger wasn't a very strong comp. There was not many junior teams. There was 5 local teams at that stage, and I was playing senior footy at 14, and then through the ranks they still had Auskick programs and all that. Started when I was 6, and then just played a lot of sports at school. Obviously, AFL wasn't that prominent at school, so I had to learn to play a lot of other sports as well, which, rugby in terms of tackling and stepping and that kind of thing was really good for footy. So, Dad being a Tasmanian, and my older brother playing before me, I sort of followed in their footsteps and moved away to Brisbane from Mackay when I was 16 and gave it a fair crack and ended up having a really good 2 years with Morningside in the Quaffle Queensland Footy League up there, and then was lucky enough to get drafted at number 9 in 2006.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. When you said before as well, your senior debut at age of 14.
Yeah.
I've got it written here as well because I read that and I was like, there's no way that could be true. But at Eastern Swans, you've made your senior debut at 14. That's...
Yeah, and kicked 5 as well at 14. So I mean, I learnt to. I was faster than everyone. There was some bigger, slower blokes. So, but they did try and take your head off, no matter what your age is. If you're out there, they say you're old enough to play at this level. Then you got to watch yourself. So I had to learn to duck pretty early, but it probably helped in regards to being evasive.
No, that is crazy. I was just reading that. I was like, there's no way. But then, as you know, Queensland footy wasn't always massive, but. Just imagine playing against those sort of blokes now. I train when I'm in the 19s and I train with the seniors, I shoot myself, and I'm 18 years old. I can't imagine being 14 and actually having to play against them.
Yeah, that's right. It was pretty daunting, but hey, it's the only way to learn. Get thrown in the deep end and sink or swim, I suppose.
Exactly. You said also that you moved to Brisbane to play for Morningside at 16 years old. How hard was that sort of decision to go from at 16 years old to make that jump and sort of decide this is what I want to do, I want to play footy and all that? Yeah,
absolutely. Really, really challenging. First, especially the first 6 months. Leaving all your schoolmates, going down to Brisbane to finish off year 12, so you miss a lot of things, formals and that kind of thing, with your best mates. So that was tough, but they didn't have that much faith in me and my mates because they said we'll see you back in 2 weeks. So they didn't think I would last that long. But that was probably a little bit of a sting to work harder, and in the end it ended up paying off. But that first 6 months, family, friends, was certainly challenging. There was times when, footy, school, that kind of thing, you just thought, this is too hard, and wanted to pull the pin. But having strong support networks around you in regards to Queensland footy at the time was really helpful, and also just chatting in with the family a lot, saying the bigger picture and why I'm down there, and giving it a red hot crack, because you wouldn't want to regret not giving it the full red hot crack. So that was certainly tough for the first 6 months, but it probably ended up making the transition from Brisbane to Melbourne a lot easier, because I'd done that Mackay to Brisbane so young, and once I got over that first 6 months, I was pretty good after that.
Yeah, and I was going to say you ended up playing well as well. You played in the under-18s Queensland team up there. Who was in that team with you? Was there anyone that sort of ended up making the AFL with you? Or? Yeah,
we had, out of that Queensland team that year, we ended up having 13 drafted and 6 rookie.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
So, I was the top pick at number 9, and then we had, a whole heap of other guys. We had 3 really good talls. Jesse White, who played for Collingwood and Sydney, Kurt Tippett, Joel Tippett as well. We had some incredible players drafted that year, and went on to forge some great careers. Some a lot of talent that didn't end up seeing out their talent for what it was worth. A couple of guys from Brisbane Lions in Ron Hooper and Albert Proud, they were talented beyond belief. They should have been 200 game players, but for whatever reason, things happen in life, and you can take the wrong path sometimes. But they were just 2 guys that were in our Queensland team that were unbelievable footballers.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So you said that we got drafted at pick 9, 2006. Did you know that St Kilda were going to pick you up, or did you sort of have any inkling or any other teams that were circling at all?
I briefly spoke to St Kilda at draft camp. Johnny Beveridge was sort of a renowned figure in, the under-18 comp. Yep. Everyone sort of, if you speak to St Kilda, it was like that old guy, Johnny Beveridge, who was a ripper. So briefly spoke to them, but nothing set in stone. It was never, we're going to take you or anything like that. I actually spoke to Collingwood, where Alan Richardson was at the time. I remember speaking to him draft day, and Collingwood basically said, we've got to see what the first sort of 10 do, and if you don't go at 8, they had picks 8 and 10. If you don't go at 8, we'll take you at 10. That was Collingwood. They ended up taking Ben Reid at 8, and then my name got, I was thinking I was going at 10, and then St Kilda picked me out at 9, which was a bit bizarre.
Very tight.
And then they ended up taking Nathan Brown at 10. So
there you go.
It's funny how things work out.
Yeah, that's so weird how it's literally like pick to pick. Like it's that close of a gap between, you could have been playing how many games you played at St Kilda or your whole new career at Collingwood.
Who knows? Exactly right. You never know what would have happened. But even Brisbane Lions, I was working at the Gabba at the merchandise shop the year I was too young to get drafted out of school. So I was talking to all the players, the recruiters, Lee Matthews, a lot coming in and out of the merchandise shop in passing, and they had pick 4 that year. They ended up taking Matty Leuenberger, who was a ruckman. But yeah, I mean, I even had discussions with them whether they weren't sure who they were going to pick it for. Was I going to go that early? Not sure. They weren't sure, but certainly, we're speaking to them a fair bit.
Yeah. Getting picked up, what was sort of that feeling like after all the sacrifices you'd made from moving from Mackay to Brisbane, at such a young age, to get into the footy? How did that feel to actually finally have your name called out and you had that career that you'd sort of pushed so hard for? Yeah,
really good. I kind of just had this vision or dream that that's all I wanted to do, and I wasn't going to stop until I made it. So it's funny, you do all this work and you finally get drafted, and it's a relief, but then that's when the work starts. You get to the club, and no matter if you pick 9 or you're rookied at 100, at the end of the day you come in and you're all on a level playing field. It's the one that works the hardest, is a sponge and soaks in all the information, the one that plays their role. So that's why drafts are just a number. You can get terrific athletic guys that are touted to be the next superstars, and majority of the time they are, because the recruiters get it pretty well down to a fine-tooth comb. But there is still guys that get drafted in the top 20 or whatever and don't end up making, and it's the guys that come off a rookie list that have to work harder that ended up being the ones that play the most games and win premierships. So yeah, getting drafted is just a number. It basically starts once you get to the footy club with those guys that you get drafted with.
Yeah, I feel like that's being shown more now than ever before, that players that are coming from the VFL and players that are coming from all these places that you wouldn't usually go up that straight route. It's being shown, Tipper obviously was originally a top-up player for Essendon, and now he plays, now he's in there starting 22 every week. Nick Hind was playing for Essendon VFL, and now he went to St Kilda and then back to Essendon. It's becoming sort of a whole nother way to do it, where you can play through the VFL and then make your way through there, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's great. And some teams led the way in that, in recycled players or players that had been 26, 28 that missed out initially but dominate in lower levels. So VFL, Waffle, Samful, that kind of thing. So yeah, you're never out of it. Some people mature at different times. People don't hit their peak until they're sort of 25 to 30, and then were no good when they were younger. So it really is, you just got to keep at it, just keep playing good footy, and who knows what can happen. But it's funny with footy, there was a whole thing probably 5 to 7 years ago that it ended up turning athletics, and they started getting these guys from basketball, and if you were tall and could run, then they'd look at you and sort of steered away from the traditional footy guys that were either too big or too slow or whatever. But then it sort of started going back to that now, when there's more contests and that kind of thing. So it's good. That's why I suppose we love our game, because anyone can play it, whether you're big, small. and that kind of thing. So it's good.
Yeah. So you ended up debuting in 2007. That's when the Saints were sort of becoming a really, really strong side. Again, after they'd sort of had a real good tilt in 2004, and then they've sort of kept going, and they were sort of entering that premiership window of 09 and 10 and all that. What was the club sort of like then to be around, like with all those players, and who did you sort of bond with and like look up to the most in that team?
Yeah. So 2007, when Ross first came in, he just sort of he had a longer sort of term plan and wanted to sort of see how we played initially, I suppose.
Yep.
And then, he then became, I can't remember where we finished in 2007, but I don't think we played finals.
Yeah,
I think we missed. Yeah. And then, from there, he basically then just said, all right, he got rid of who he wanted to, brought in who he thought could win games of footy, and then that year, we basically just had a really strong leadership in led by Rui, BJ, Dale, Joey, halves. We had G Train there, Andrew Thompson, like all these guys that had been around footy a long time, but Ross sort of had this philosophy where he was ruthless. Our trademark was all about playing your role and being ruthless, basically. And if you didn't, you found yourself out of the team pretty quick. And there was a game I remember vividly when we lost a couple in a row, and Dal and Milne didn't play their role on the day, and he ended up dropping them back to the VFL.
Oh, wow.
And they played against Coburg out there. I remember playing that game, and there was heaps of people there, and that was sort of a sign where it was a real deal. If you don't play your role and do what's necessary with the team, he'll drop you. So that sort of shook a few feathers, and then from there, 08, we played in a prelim. We beat Collingwood in the semi-final, which I played in against, nearly 90,000 at the G.
Yeah.
And then ultimately the next week we lost to Hawthorn, who then went on to win the flag in 08. So, really quick turnaround from 07 to 08 from what was expected in the team, and then that was sort of led on throughout 09 and 10, and ultimately should have won one of those at least, but unfortunately that's footy for you.
Yeah, that's alright. Like you said, in 2008 you ended up playing 13 games for the year, including those two finals, the semi against Collingwood and the prelim against Hawthorn, which was Harv's last game. How was that experience playing just in finals footy? Like, obviously it's a completely different ball game.
Yeah, different level. I remember that first Collingwood game. I started cramping in the first quarter. Normally I'd cramp in the last quarter, but it was a bit of a famous one where I came off the bench, and I actually used to wear my socks down, but one in the final I thought I'll play like Lenny, so I pulled my socks up and actually wrapped some tape around my calf up the top, and it cut off the blood flow to my calf, so I started cramping, and got on the phone, and Ross absolutely ripped shreds off me and said, if I find out you were out on the weekend, you won't be here anymore. But the physio had to sort of go upstairs and say, mate, the idiot put his socks up and tied tape around his calf, so it's cut off the circulation. That's why it's cramping. But it was certainly an experience playing in front of so many people and winning that one. But I remember against Hawthorn we were clearly going to lose, but Ross ended up just saying, go tag Jordan Lewis and give him hell, basically. So that's two things that I remember out of those two games.
Well, and like we said before with Harves, that's obviously his last game. How was that sort of just to be able to farewell him? Obviously that we didn't get the win, but just the legend that you sort of looked up to, and that was obviously... Yeah,
I played in my first game the year before, which was against Hawthorn, and my first possession was either to or from Harves, I can't remember. Probably from. And then his last game as well. So it was sad, certainly, to send off a champ, but I mean he had an unbelievable career in the red, white, and black. So he was sorely missed. He was certainly not always by words, but just by actions. I just remember him smashing himself on a bike. Like, it looked like he was just gonna die. He literally used to smash himself on a bike on days where we had off legs, and that's what you see as young guys. You see that kind of thing, and then you learn from that. So then, next time you're on a bike with young guys, you work really hard, and hopefully you sort of, you rub off on, and they look at you and go, oh shit, this is how you're meant to work, kind of thing. So I remember, Haas, Lenny, Rui, Hamill, G-Train, they were just such solid workers, and it helped with young guys, as we said before, myself, Gears and Jack, and learning from those guys and what they did was awesome, and hopefully we passed a little bit of our knowledge from those guys down.
Yeah, I think you have, and now those players are sort of now in like that star of the Saints team. Like Jack Billings is one that was sort of young when you guys were hitting your peak and everything, so he's sort of learnt from you guys, and now he's playing good footy as well.
Yeah, that's right. Jack Gresh, Longy, those blokes, same sort of thing. It just comes around in cycles where you learn off guys, you give them their wisdom, and hopefully they're doing the same now with the young guys getting drafted. So
yeah, exactly. That's not bad. In 2011, this is when you sort of properly broke through. You played in 22 games, including the elimination final against Sydney, which was just in that first week. How did it feel to sort of, you're then like a final side still, and you were now like that set in midfielder of that sort of team? How did it feel to sort of finally break through?
Yeah, really good. It was a long time coming, really, because even that year, 09, I think it was, I had an awesome pre-season. Was playing really well, and then the last training session I ended up doing my hammy slightly, and then we ended up winning 19 in a row, and it was always, if you've got a winning side, it doesn't change. So I was having consistent 35 possession games and kicking 2 in the VFL every single week, and I just could not get back in. So it wasn't until round 19 down in Launceston against the Hawks, where we rested 8 famously. We'd won 8 in a row, and then we were going for 19 in a row, but no one picked us because we had 8 of our best stars out. Hawthorn had a pretty full strength side, and we ended up rolling them with 3 debutants that year. I got 3 Brownlow votes that day. I remember having a Barney with Luke Hodge out there as well, having a wrestle on the field. So that was 19, where, that was an outstanding year for myself personally, especially in the VFL. But just not being able to break back into that side. So 11 was great. I remember that Sydney elimination final. That was my 50th game. They had the sub rule, and I actually got subbed out at half time in my 50th game. So I do remember that. But he was pretty brutal, Ross. But
I was going to say, was there like an injury, or did
just we were getting smashed, I guess. I probably was playing half forward or something, and I can't remember why it was, but I got subbed out in that game, and then he ended up. That was the year he left, wasn't it? I think so. Yeah, he didn't. He left for after that. So, but good to play every game that year.
Yeah, well, that is. I actually didn't know that you got sold off at half.
Yeah.
That is
the red vest.
That is unlucky, and that kind of follows through with sort of my next thing. I am of the opinion that you're one of the most unlucky players in the AFL because you were such a gun, but it just so happened that at the time St Kilda was struggling and were near the bottom of the ladder, and you didn't get sort of that recognition that I think you should have got anyway. So I think personally you're one of the most unlucky players that played.
Thanks. A little bit, but I mean I'm not sort of one to give up that easy. Like, there was times where we were struggling, where I was getting offers from other footy clubs to go play there on really good deals. But I'm the kind of person that wanted to sort of, I'd been there with the highs, and now these lows were coming. Well, not that I knew they were. My mindset was we can still win every week. But as you said, it was. It's not in my sort of personality to leave. I wanted to sort of carry the team and lead from the front, and ultimately, try and dig us out. But there was a lot of stuff externally within the footy clubs with Scott Waters and that kind of thing, and getting blokes moved out of the club like BJ and Dale and Benny Mack and that kind of thing. So there were some things out of our control as players, but like you said, all I could do was play good footy, and fortunately I had some pretty good years there, but as a team, yeah, you're right. Probably, only winning 6 games and playing really well every game, but not being recognised in Brownlows or anything like that certainly doesn't help. But I mean, that's all part of it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. There have been you played some great games over your career. I've got a couple here. Do any in particular sort of stand out that could be like an amazing experience or moment? Like, it doesn't matter sort of how well you play, but there are any games in your head where it's like, that game was incredible, like you remember like heaps about a certain thing?
Oh, as a team, one of the ones that sticks out is 08 in our pre-season. We won a pre-season comp.
Yeah.
We played in Adelaide. It was 42 degrees. I just remember the heat. It was the hottest game I ever played in, and I've played in Darwin. The heat was unbearable. Like, it was disgusting. But we ended up winning the NAB Cup or Wizard Cup.
Actually, I remember that, the
back
Wizard
then,
Cup.
in 2008. So that was, as a team, I've still got that photo on my wall framed. That was pretty special to win a pre-season
when
cup.
It was actually a tournament and not just
that's
games,
right. It was actually a full-on tournament where we were the best in the pre-season, which was great. And then, you have great individual games, generally milestones that you win, or standout games where you kick heaps of goals or have heaps of touches, like that Western Bulldogs one where I had 45.
That's what I got here, yeah.
But why that was special was because we came back from one of the biggest margins ever being down. I think it was 38 points or something. It was more,
52 or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was pretty special to come back and that last quarter, you just felt the momentum, and they'd stopped, and we just ran over the top of them. I remember Rui and Jack Billings also had great games.
Yeah. There's that famous Billings goal where he gets into Huffle and just moves around and smacks it through.
Game. So that was certainly one standout game.
Yeah, I've got that written here. I was like, you've got that incredible comeback, 45 touches and kick the goal, drag the Saints back into the game. That was good, that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Another one, was when the Giants were still sort of something kind of new, and you had 31 and kick 4 against them.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that game as well. That was pretty cool. I remember every time I'd get a mark inside 50, Dal was only like a metre away from me, and every time he goes, "How are you doing this?" I said, "Mate, I don't know, because if I wasn't going to mark it, it would have been Dal." So it was just one of those games where I was in the right spot at the right time, and Dal was so filthy good. That he goes, "Are you serious? You're going for your 4th goal, and I've been here next to you every single time." So yeah, that was pretty funny.
That is good. Obviously, the Giants were still kind of new then, so it would have been
that's right. But you knew, we always said that you while they are young, and you had your Cornelios, your Wards, your Reece Palmers, your Toby Greens. I mean, it's funny, blokes like I used to get tagged by Toby Green as well, and then now you sort of see he's one of the genuine superstars of the comp. Just seeing blokes like that come up, and now seeing how good they're going now was certainly cool to beat them back then when they were only 18 years old.
Exactly. Have you got any sort of stories from your career, like in games and that like are the funny, like what funny moments you've got where like you said, like Toby Green tagging you, like anything that you look back on and think that was just funny to watch or funny to be a part of, sort of thing?
Nah, not off the top of my head. It was one of the funniest blokes to play with was Milne.
Oh, of course.
He, like, if anyone was sort of half getting into him, or he would, someone did just something on the field that wasn't great, he would just let them know. And you couldn't understand him half the time because he had a lisp and then a mouth guard in, so those two combined, it was pretty funny. But you could hear the F word or the C word or something just rabbling on and getting into someone, and he was one of the best to play with. A lot of people even now go, "Oh, that bloody Milne, yada yada," but people that know him know that if you had him on your team, he was, he'd do anything for you. He was a ripper. So Milne was just one that every single game I loved playing, because I would be out on the field in like tears, laughing at trying to watch him fight someone or get stuck into someone. It was hilarious.
I was going to say, I reckon he'd be very funny to have on this. Like, he'd be an awesome person to just be able to talk to, because he would have some funny stories of just like people that have come at him and like sledges and just...
Absolutely would, if you can understand him.
No, I'll do my best.
No, he's still one of my good mates to this day, Milne.
Yeah, no. You spoke about Ross Lyon before. There are constant stories about his like sprays and things that he does. Is there anything in particular that stands out, like a certain spray or a certain moment that, like, obviously the 50th game getting subbed off is a pretty big one, but any like...
Well, that Collingwood one where he said, if I find out you're out in the piss on the weekend, and there was a few other things he said as well, which I can't repeat, but that was another one. There's so many of them. There's literally that many of them. Like Jaron Geary used to, as a defender, not go for speckies, but he would jump on someone's head and spore the ball. And one game he jumped on someone's head and he thought, I could mark this, and he went for a mark and dropped it. And Ross just dragged him straight away. I was on the bench, and you can just hear through the phone, if you ever go for another specky, yada yada. It was just stuff like that, which was pretty funny now looking back on it, but at the time you're petrified. Mate, there was some absolute rippers in team meetings, and who the F do you think you are? And then he'd just say blokes' names from other sporting codes, like from years ago, like Elton Flatley. You're playing like bloody Elton Flatley. Like, there's so many things that he used to do and take the piss out of. Sarcasm was one of his strong points. There's just so many of them that Dal always sort of repeats now on Sportsman's Nights, which are pretty funny to listen to.
Oh, I can so imagine. Like, I've just heard so many stories, and he just seems like just a character. Like,
yeah, absolutely. He is a character, and it was sort of funny because if you're in his sort of core playing group, then the boys loved him, and then if you're on the fringe or the outer and sort of made you compete with everyone else, then you were a bit like not as loved. You didn't really feel the love as much both ways, but he was there to win a flag and fell short, but certainly gave ourselves the best opportunity in the way that he does things. You went through, in the end, was it 3 coaches? So you had Ross Lyon, then it was Scott Waters, and then it was Alan Richardson. Mm-hmm.
Of those 3, obviously Ross is probably going to be like the best one, but did you sort of, like, with Scott Waters going away so early, he came in and then kind of left relatively soon, do you feel like it was sort of warranted, or was it like...
Yeah, potentially. I think coming from Ross in then Scotty, he certainly had a different approach from Ross, and certainly older guys probably didn't take to his coaching style or philosophies as well as what they had in the past with Grant Thomas and Ross Lyon. So that certainly didn't help Scotty. But his first year, I actually didn't think he coached that bad. And then, sort of second year, we didn't go that well. Some of our game plan stuff and that wasn't too flash. But I mean, I was young. I was still sort of making my way, trying to play every week, like you said. But I didn't really have any reason to say that he was not a good coach or anything like that. He was just different, had different philosophies, and ultimately, if you don't get the results, you get flicked out pretty straight away. So which he did. So probably put us back a little bit, especially with Ross sort of taking off the way he did as well. And, heading to Seaford as well, as a whole footy club wasn't great either. So it was always going to be hard from that. And then Richo, we had a camp in Boulder, Colorado, and sort of sat down individually with players, and he came from Port and basically said, you could be a really A-grade midfielder if you want to be. Here's how basically to do it, and then I basically followed that. So he was a great sort of teacher, I thank Richo for what he was able to do within my sort of career.
Yeah, there's a story with Richo when I did work experience at St. Kilda, which you were there at the time, because I remember you were the first person that actually spoke to me. Because like I got there the first day, no one really. I was very scared to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And then the second day I spoke to you. I was on my lunch break one day and I was shooting in the gym at Moorabbin, just shooting basketball, and all the coaches walk in. So Richo, Ben McGlynn, like all those blokes come walking in. Yeah. And so we ended up playing a 5v5 basketball game, and I was against Alan Richardson, and he set the hardest screen on me I've ever been hit in my life.
Yeah, he was solid, but yeah, I can't imagine him being very good at basketball. He's a little bit unco.
He didn't take it easy on me. I was a 16-year-old kid, and he just set a very hard screen on me, and then Ben McGlynn just absolutely smashed me all around the court. I was guarding
those games pretty seriously, and then all the fouls aren't generally called.
No,
it's a bit
not
more
at all.
Basketball than basketball.
That's good. I've got a story here as well, where I don't know what year it was, but you once got a haircut so bad that you let Nick Roy shave it because it was that bad. So you let him fix it.
Yeah. So that was again in America. I went over with a shocking haircut, and they let me know about it. And then Rui goes, I brought my clippers. I'll be able to sort of fix it. I've done a little bit of hair cutting before, and I thought, okay, no worries. And he pulled out these little clippers, and you expect to see sort of different attachments to 1, 2, 3, 4. And I sort of said to him, mate, can I have a bit of a 3 or a 4 on the side? And he goes, yeah, no worries. This is a 4 on his little razor. And I said, oh, okay, sweet. Sort of trusted him. Went, yeah, okay, he will know what he's doing. Anyway, it was a beard trimmer with no different settings on it. It was just a full on remove your hair, and he's just halfway up my head just started going bzz, bzz, bzz. So it went from hair straight to nothing, and all around the sides and the back.
Oh god.
So yeah, it ended up being a pretty shocking haircut. I don't know if I've still got a photo of that somewhere. I'm sure he does, but I trusted him to cut my hair, and he absolutely butchered it, even worse than what it was.
That's so good. I like that. I've had some shocking.
It would probably be a trendy haircut nowadays.
I was going to say.
Considering some of the things that are getting around out in the field.
I got a haircut last year when I was in Phillip Island, and it was probably the exact same as that, just real long on top and nothing
and just nothing on the sides.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you know this, but do you know the Facebook page? Yeah, good boy, good footy energies.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you know the story behind it?
I do. Yeah, it was that game. It was a game. I think it was against Geelong or Collingwood.
You said Collingwood, I think.
I think it was Collingwood where I was captain for the day, and I ended up wearing Channel 7 mic'd me up, and so what they basically do is everything you say and do, the club have to tick it off. So I was probably swearing a lot, so they couldn't use basically everything else I was saying. So the only things that they ended up picking up was get it in, yeah, good boy. I remember watching it going, I said way more than that, but they kept repeating basically what I'd said, and that guy ended up having a light bulb moment, he reckons, and that's where that came from.
That's so funny.
So there you go.
The page has 68,000 followers.
Does it?
So yeah,
there you go.
Look at that. All because of you.
Oh well, that's what happens.
Have you spoken to Brad about it, or have you just heard stories about it, or?
Nah, just stories. Basically stories. Say, did you know that guy did something because of that gut? And I said, yeah, I've heard of that, but yeah, no, I never got into sort of detail. I've watched one clip where he was talking about it, where it goes for a while, but I sort of listened in for a couple of minutes. About the energies and all that kind of thing, and it's pretty funny. Good on him.
He did it on the Dylan Friends podcast with Dill Buckley, and he was talking about it on that.
Yep.
And I was like, that's so good. That's just so funny.
There you go.
About you as well, you're very passionate about cars, I know. And you've had a fair range over your life. Yeah. What sort of cars can you sort of run through, your
list,
your resume?
Yep. So my first car was a VN Commodore.
Yeah.
And I remember we did a feedback feedback session one time, and Brad Howard, who I got drafted with from Queensland as well, I did a burnout out of the car park one time, and he said, mate, you know, it was all about getting better at footy, and we used to do these feedback sessions and what you can improve on and what you're good at. And he goes, mate, and I thought it was a footy question, like, oh, you got to get better on your right, or, you know, you're tough, but you got to run better or something. He goes, mate, you got to stop doing burnouts in the car. So I never did, but yeah. So I had a VN, then I had a SV6, a red one, which Sam Maley from Melbourne Demons ended up buying off me.
Oh, there you go.
Then I had a Porsche.
Oh.
So I must have got a few matches that year. So I ended up getting a Porsche, and then I ended up getting a Jeep SRT after that. I had a Ford G6E Turbo as well. That went pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I ended up, after the Jeep, I sold that. I got a boat and my current car, which is a nice Isuzu D-Max, which I'm selling at the moment.
Oh, there you go.
And then I'm getting a Toyota Land Cruiser 200 series, so that's on the way. And I hope to have that one more than 2 years. I hope to have it for at least 10.
Not just rotate it through.
But yeah, I've been a bit silly with my car choice, that's for sure.
Not silly, they're nice cars. Like.
Yeah, they're nice, but I mean, you've got to have it for more than 2 years, surely. Yeah. So, yeah, I just get bored and want to move on to the next one that's good at the time.
That's fair enough. You're also really passionate just about golf and playing golf. Is there any sort of like in that, or is it just a bit of fun just on the side of all the stuff you do?
Being a footy player, you're pretty competitive, so basically anything that you take up, you want to be good at. So, yeah, I sort of started golf back in Mackay when I was younger. Used to play, not very well, and then ended up getting a few lessons from guys that we know, Tampo and Rob, those guys, and ended up getting pretty good. I got into 9 there at one stage, handicap.
That's right.
And now I'm, having a kid, no time for fishing, golf, or anything like that. So I haven't played probably for a good 6 months. So yeah, that's sort of fallen away a little bit at the moment. But I do love playing, and the Masters are coming up this week, so that'll be interesting to watch as well.
Yeah, I did see that they were starting very recently. So post-footy as well, you said before how you went and played in Darwin, you went and played for St Mary's. What was sort of the occasion behind that, and how was that experience playing in the North?
I used to play with Raf Clark and Xavier Clark, and I used to live with Raf in Aspendale for a couple of years when we were both at the Saints, and got to know his family pretty well. They used to come down a fair bit and watch, younger brother, older brother, mum and sister, and yeah, basically I said once I finish footy, if my body's able to, I'd love to go up and play a game, and that game turned into 3 for the year, and then they wanted me to play more so I could qualify for finals, but I didn't get a chance to. But yeah, that's sort of how it came about, being pretty close to the Clarks, and it's just something I wanted to do, and it's sort of a mini holiday as well.
Exactly. Go
up there, play footy, and then go out to Tiwi Island or something with the Longs, the Riolis, and the Clarks. So it's a pretty cool lifestyle up there, and you can sort of see why the boys head back up home when they finish. Cyril, he's up there, still kicking about, fishing every day, that kind of thing. So that's sort of how it came about, and I'd love to be able to play more games, but it's just hard with like I said, a young family now. But it's a great experience to get up there, that's for sure. Yeah,
that's such a cool, I've been there once and I always want to go back because it's just such a different experience, and it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, and the footy's great as well. It's sort of a lot more offensive and hot. I dare say, play a night game, not a day game.
No, exactly.
It was. It's definitely hot.
Yeah, you can understand sort of how many good footballers come from there, because they just they play it their whole, that's just all they do, and it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, some freakish players that come out of there and even play up there that are relations to the boys in the AFL that probably could have played or should have played, but for whatever reason they didn't. But yeah, it's pretty cool to watch and to play in also.
Yeah. This year you joined Bomb Beach in the MPNFL, which is, I'm not playing that league, but I mean the SFNL. After the year of 2020 where you couldn't play footy at all, sort of thing, how was it exciting to get back into it and like be able to play footy again, sort of thing?
Yeah, really good. It's just something that no matter what level you play at, it's just about winning, helping the team win, and playing with mates. So I'm lucky enough to know a few guys at Bomb Beach before I got there with Trent Dennis Lane, Mitch Gent, and then you hear of guys like Macca, Shane McNamara, who was a star of that league along the traps, and not that you'd think you'd ever play for him, but ended up playing with him, and you get to play with all these guys. And even was able to rope Gilbo in to playing down there as well. So it's good, mate. I probably only have a couple of years left in my legs, but hopefully we can give it a good nudge this year and compete with those really good teams in Soretto, Germana, and Red Hill as well. They'll be up there also, which we've got next week. So it's exciting. Yeah,
I saw that you played. Did you play EDS this week? And you won by a lot.
Yeah, 110 we won by. That was it was really hot last week as well. But everything we've sort of implemented in the game style that we want to play sort of worked. First quarter pretty slow, and then the last three we got to work, and played a pretty solid 3 quarters of footy after that. So as long as we can keep doing that every week, we'll be pretty hard to compete with.
Yeah, exactly. What else have you been doing sort of like post footy now? Like, what did you sort of get into once you retired from?
So I had straight out of footy, I had a lot of interviews and that kind of thing with either footy clubs or places that they recommended for work. Didn't know what I wanted to do or anything like that. Ticked off a few diplomas and Cert 4s throughout footy. I certainly didn't know what I wanted to do. I fell into the hands of Collegians Footy Club in the VAFA. Unfortunately, with COVID, didn't get to play a game with them, but they sort of had some connections at Simmons Homes. So I was able to do a bit of sort of work experience / sales training there. With their new startup sort of company. That didn't work out as I had hoped, but certainly got some good experiences out of that. And then through some other guys, Farron Ray and Alex Rewalt, that brother of Nick, who had been in the sales industry with selling homes, asked them, and they sort of had a connection at Fairhaven Homes, which are located at Berwick, who are a great builder, where I'm at now, and same sort of thing. They sort of helped me, learn and grow in terms of selling and that kind of thing in the housing industry, and that's sort of what I'm doing now. I take care of all their medium density stuff, which is their townhouses and units and display homes as well. So, mate, sales is, it's not something that you shove down people's throats in terms of selling or anything like that. You just give people a product and basically, be yourself and follow up, and targets and all that kind of thing is something I'm used to with footy. So it's really relatable in terms of footy and sales. So it's great. It helps you achieve something that you need to get to, and a target, and just the same skills are adaptable in the sales world. So I'm loving it at the moment and doing pretty well. So it's good.
Yeah, that's a good way to sort of just transfer all the way through.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You touched on Alex Rewalt, and there's also coming up in 2 weeks, it's Maddie's match, which is the Saints vs Richmond. They do it all the years, sort of thing. It's like an awesome cause, and I go to basically all of them. And it's just a great night. Sort of, what does it mean to you and obviously your mate Nick? So it's just a great sort of thing. Yeah,
absolutely. And just getting back onto the Fairhaven MRV connection. Fairhaven are actually donating a house for free.
Oh wow!
They're building a house for MRV to auction off later on in the year, in an estate in Clyde called Arana, who have also donated land for MRV as well. So, all the proceeds and that will go to Maddie's vision, which is great. And they've come such a long way in their short tenure. And Nick's done an incredible job in steering the ship and their team as well, to find a lot of it's the research and basically getting the right diagnosis, because what can happen is with these these, I forget what they're called in regards to the blood cancers, but sometimes they can get the wrong diagnosis. You get the wrong chemo or treatment, and then it's too late basically to turn back. So what they've done and what they're doing and continue to do with people like Fairhaven, it's really, really good. And Maddie was an awesome girl. I got to know her pretty well, and never forgotten. And these matches of they wouldn't expect it to get where it has. Been just an idea back then when Maddie was at her sickest. So she's a fighter. She was not meant to last. As long as she did, she get fighting, and that's the idea behind MRV. So great cause, and it'll be a great game. Hopefully the Saints can actually turn up and play a bit better than what they have been lately. But yeah, like I said, it's a bigger picture thing for young children that have these sort of blood cancers or bone marrow failure as well. So yeah, it's a great cause.
Yeah, one of my favourite games I've ever been to was Maddie's match night last year, the year before, where we absolutely pumped Richmond by about 70, and we were up 90-10 at half time. Yeah,
that was one of those ones out of the box where you just don't expect it, and they were off, we were on.
Yeah, they went on to win the premiership that year.
Yeah, they did. So we can say that we helped them do that. But yeah, mate, that was a great game. The one in 2015 as well, that one of the first ones, or if not the first one. That was obviously sad, but that was awesome to be a part of.
Yeah, it's like sort of the Spuds game that happened as well. Hopefully they can continue to
and it will.
Keep those games going each year. Right?
Exactly. No, they're great initiatives, and that's something that St Kilda can take their head off to. Is helping in terms of a bigger picture where footy is just a game, and they can sort of help through those channels.
Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on to this today. Just a huge honour being able to have another one of my idols that I sort of watched growing up, and it's just awesome to be able to talk to you. Just it's cool.
No worries, a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, and hopefully you can start getting some cool guests on. I'll see what Milne's up to.
That'd be unreal. Yeah, but no, you're a genuine underrated star. So I'm very, very happy, and hopefully catch up again soon.
No worries. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.